two major decisions that were made by the Supreme Court today, both of them have to do with same-sex marriage. Well, we went out to Cooley Law School, and Mike Dunn agreed to come in and talk to us about this because these are very complicated, and it's still going to be hashed out in the courts here, but we want to get the best understanding we possibly can right now. So I appreciate you coming in here to talk about this, Professor.
Well, thank you.
Let's start with the rulings here. We have two, as mentioned. One deals specifically with California, their Prop 8. The other one is the Defense of Marriage Act, which is a federal law. So which one is going to affect us the most, and which one should we talk the most?
Well, the one that's going to affect the country the most is the DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act one. And that is, there's a Section 3 in that which says that marriage is between one man and one woman. The United States Supreme Court struck that down as unconstitutional. And that will mean that if you're legally married in a state as a same-sex couple, you'll now be able to get federal benefits. The problem with that is there's only 12 states where you can be legally married.
Okay.
So it doesn't really affect Michigan. The other case would have probably affected Michigan more, but that's the Prop 8 case that tried to define marriage as a man and a woman in California. The court decided to punt on that one and say, you don't have standing here, and we're not going to hear this case. And so that one's sort of, marriage goes back to being legal for same-sex couples in California, basically starting pretty soon here.
But they didn't make any kind of decision on that.
No, they didn't.
And that one's really similar to what Michigan, a referendum that was passed by the people in 2004. We have that language, if we could pull that up here real quickly. It says, the union of one man and one woman in marriage shall be the only agreement recognized as a marriage or similar union for any purpose. That's the language that is in Michigan's Constitution, essentially. How does that fit into all of this?
Well, you know, the framework here is really pretty interesting. DOMA deals with a couple that's already legally married. So if they're legally married in New York and New York recognizes marriage, if one party dies in the case that at hand, the Windsor case, the other party wasn't being able to get or had to pay taxes on the estate based on the fact that the federal government wouldn't recognize the marriage. Now they must recognize the marriage, so that doesn't do anything to Michigan. Once Michigan makes it legal for same-sex marriage, then that DOMA decision will affect everybody in Michigan who's married as a same-sex couple, because then they'll be able to get federal benefits. But the bottom line is, I don't think the Supreme Court's really going to try to be in the business of defining what states should do for marriage. That's really supposed to be left up to each individual state.
Well, doesn't this also, though, lead to some more court challenges that may be coming in for states that don't allow same-sex marriage? For example, Michigan right now, that we may have our own kind of court filings that are going to happen, because even though the Supreme Court hasn't ruled, saying that all states should allow same-sex marriage, they've kind of someone's given a blessing here to the idea of it by saying that the federal government can't stop it.
That's right, can't stop the benefit portion of it. And so, you know, I think Michigan legislature already is starting to work on a framework, but they'd have to change the Constitution, because in 2004 we literally put into the Constitution it had to be a man and a woman. Now there's going to be a tax on that. The legislature's probably going to get involved in that. Maybe there's even going to be a different petition drive to try to get this back on some ballot. But there's going to be a lot going on throughout the country.
Troy, give me one more minute, our producer, if I can, here real quick here, because we want to talk a little bit about where this goes now then. Let's say there are lawsuits that are filed. Does this kind of become one of those things where people say this is inevitable, it has to be done, because otherwise we're going to spend all this time in courts and we're going to lose anyway because of the way the Supreme Court ruled here?
But if you look at this is kind of fascinating. This is how big change in the country happens. I mean, as law professors and people in the legal business, I see this happening with marijuana. Just sit back and watch how this is sort of unfolding. It's like we're making sausage all over the country, little by little. It gets sloppy, it gets dirty, but it gets done. But this is sort of inevitable, and you're right. You're seeing something inevitable unfolding. Is it going to take us longer in Michigan, or is it going to take us less time? But it's going to happen.
Well, it's certainly going to be interesting.
It's going to be real interesting.
All this unfold. We appreciate your time. Mike Dunn with Cooley Law School. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. And we are, of course, going to follow this very closely throughout the rest of the day, boil it down as best we can, and keep looking for any kind of angles that may be affecting us here in the state of Michigan, and especially West.